Today at 6, the last full day of campaigning in the general election. The leaders of all the main parties have been travelling the country, making their final appeal for votes.
Hello from Westminster. Here's some good news. The time is running out for folk like me talking about all this stuff. It's over to you to make a decision.
We're out hearing from voters in 2 key constituencies that may change colour on Thursday.
We'll vote, but whether we'll get what we want, I don't know. I might not even bother going to vote because I don't think it's going to get me anywhere.
Also tonight, the daughter and son-in-law of Captain Sir Tom Moore have been banned from being charity trustees. And as Britain's Emma Raducanu continues her Wimbledon singles campaign, it's announced she'll also be playing doubles with Andy Murray.
On BBC London, a teenage pupil from Uxbridge dies after getting into difficulty in the water on a school trip to West Sussex. We'll have the latest.
Hello, welcome to the BBC News at 6 on the last day of general election campaigning before the polls open at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. Political leaders have been crisscrossing the country, making their final push for support today. The Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, has accused the Conservatives of what he called voter suppression. He was speaking after the Work and Pensions Secretary, Mel Stride, said that the polls suggested Labour was heading for the largest majority the country has ever seen. Our political editor, Chris Mason, has been following the last 6 weeks of campaigning. He's at Westminster tonight. Chris.
Hello, evening to you, Jane. Some things don't change. It was chucking it down 6 weeks ago, and it's just about doing just the same now, summer 2024, hey? So we've had 6 weeks with that extraordinary twist this morning of a cabinet minister on Radio 4 the day before a general election, effectively almost conceding defeat. All of this after all of these weeks of the manifesto launches. Here's just a smattering of them, and there's plenty more besides. We've had the TV debates, haven't we? We've had foul-ups, we've had revelations, all of those revelations we brought you about betting, and still in these final hours, still more twisting of arms, still more persuasion. 6 weeks ago, it was a bit damp. So this is it, a general election is on.
If you want change, you have to vote for it.
Here they are. Funny old business following the Prime Minister on the campaign trail. Are you changing many minds?
Well, look, Chris, you can see we're having a conversation here.
Would you describe yourself as a socialist?
Look, yes, I would.
Fireworks, smiles, promises, questions, and one more day of persuasion. Rishi Sunak was at school in Romsey in Hampshire today.
Hi girls, how are you?
Hello. How is he, I wonder, after hearing a cabinet colleague on Radio 4 this morning say this?
Where the polls are at the moment means that tomorrow is likely to see the largest Labour landslide majority, the largest majority that this country has ever seen. What therefore matters now is what kind of opposition do we have?
And how would his boss mark his homework?
What Mel was doing was pointing out the dangers of a Labour government with an unchecked majority, a blank cheque to do what they want, and that means people's taxes are going to go up.
Keir Starmer!
The Labour leader has been in East Kilbride, south of Glasgow, this afternoon. He was near Wickland in Carmarthenshire this morning and dismissive of the Conservatives' near concession of defeat.
It's more of the same. It's really voter suppression. It's trying to get people to stay at home rather than to go out and vote. I say if you want change, you have to vote for it. I want people to be part of the change. I know there are very close constituencies across the country. I don't take anything for granted.
The Scottish National Party leader John Swinney's been toasting a marshmallow next to a big plastic frog in Castlemilk in Glasgow today, and he had a fluorescent jacket moment too.
The election is well and truly over and done with south of the border, and the issue for Scotland is who's going to protect Scotland's interests in the next Westminster Parliament, and people know they can rely on the SNP to do exactly that.
Well, my bus to work didn't get this welcome this morning, but Sir Ed Davies did, from Liberal Democrat activists in Harpenden in Hertfordshire this afternoon.
Tomorrow we have the chance to win the change
our country desperately needs.
Yellow bus in, pink car out. Zany capers over and out for the Lib Dems. Nigel Farage from Reform UK has been at a boxing club and was asked how he thought his party would do.
It's very tough to call what's going to happen. The thing we can't measure, and the polls can't measure, is the youth vote. You know, are all these people online, the millions of them who've been very supportive, are they actually going to go and vote? I don't know.
The Green Party of England and Wales is hoping it's heading towards gains.
The level of support has been phenomenal. I've been stopped in the street repeatedly by people asking for a selfie or even for a hug.
It's my pleasure to be here, seeing you off.
And the leader of Plaid Cymru, which would like to see an independent Wales, did a pep talk in a drizzly car park near Ammanford.
If it wasn't for Plaid Cymru and us using the platforms that we have, there wouldn't have been a mention of Wales during this campaign at all, and people can see that.
And here's a mention of Northern Ireland too, where a panoply of parties contest seats in races that feel very different from elsewhere in the UK. So, this is it. It's over to you to sketch how this place will look, feel, sound and decide for the next 5 years to come. And, ultimately, who will live here? Chris Mason, BBC News, Westminster.
Well, many seats across the country are predicted to switch from Conservative to other parties after tomorrow's election. Our political correspondent Alex Forsyth has travelled to Henley-on-Thames, once the seat of Boris Johnson and considered a Tory heartland. But now the Liberal Democrats have it in their sights. She's also been to Great Yarmouth, which had a big Conservative majority last time round, but as Alex now explains, is a Labour target.
Election polling day tomorrow, just over 24 hours.
Early morning and Great Yarmouth's waking up to the imminent choice facing the country.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of junk mail. That's a bit about it.
Leaflets through the door?
Oh, yeah.
Reading them?
No.
The seaside town on the Norfolk coast has had its share of challenges. The question now is whether people have been persuaded by the solutions on offer.
We will vote, yeah, but whether we'll get what we want, I don't know.
This seat has echoes of others around the country. It was somewhere the Conservatives won pretty comfortably at the last election in 2019 when they fought under the banner of Brexit. Politically, things look very different now, and it's a sign of Labour's ambition through this campaign that they've had their eyes set on seats like this. The political battle that's underway here hasn't escaped Katie.
We've had a lot of canvassers around just in my village. Even yesterday, I had a leaflet drop of about 10 different leaflets.
10?
Yeah.
An expert in animal behaviour, their welfare is her priority, but not the only issue.
There's lots of new housing going up, which of course we need, but they're not putting the infrastructure in. If I want to get a doctor's appointment, I can't. It does matter. Whoever gets in is going to try and do some radical changes.
The way people here vote might reflect who ends up in number 10, but the election involves far more than two parties, and the presence of Reform UK in places like this has set Conservative nerves jangling. In fact, across the country, the Tories have been fighting a defensive campaign. Head further south and the party faces another challenge.
Newcastle now lead by 2/3 of the legs.
Henley-on-Thames, with the Royal Regatta in full swing this week, has been the epitome of the Tory heartlands, and it's the kind of place the Lib Dems have been targeting. It hasn't escaped the notice of Jim, who runs a local boating business here.
This whole sort of protest vote, if you think, or tactical voting, I think there's a lot of that going on. There's not really been a sense of people coming forward with their policies and what they're going to do for the country.
It doesn't sound like you feel very enthusiastic about this election.
No, I mean, I wish I did.
The Liberal Democrats have had a very deliberate strategy, targeting seats they think they can win, most of them from the Conservatives and a lot of them here in the south of England. And they're not the only party. The Green Party's had national messages, but on the ground, they've concentrated their campaign where they think they can have the most impact. Just off Henley High Street, fashion retailer Lawrence is still weighing up the options.
To be honest, I actually don't know which way I'm going to go.
Still undecided?
Still undecided. I don't think any party has got the answer to every problem.
If you had to sum up how you're feeling about this election campaign in one word, what would it be?
Haphazard.
And if politics is the art of persuasion, this campaign is in the final stretch. Alex Forsyth, BBC News.
And of course, there is a full list of all candidates standing in all constituencies, including those two, on our website, bbc.co.uk/news. Well, over the last 6 weeks, we've been following the campaigns in all nations of the UK. Now, on the eve of polling day, James Cook, Hal Griffith and Sarah Gervin shared their thoughts on what issues lie at the heart of the election in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland.
The SNP has dominated politics in Scotland for years. Now, under its new leader, John Swinney, it's battling to hold on to seats here in the Central Belt, where Labour are hopeful of making gains. The Conservatives, they're defending seats along the border and in the North East. Their Scottish leader announced his resignation during the campaign, and the Lib Dems are focusing on some mostly rural areas. As I've crisscrossed the country, voters have been telling me they're concerned about the cost of living, the state of the public services, and the pace of the shift from oil and gas to renewable energy. There's been a row about Rishi Sunak's decision to call this election during the Scottish school holidays, with some voters disenfranchised because they haven't received their postal ballots in time. And in the background, as always, there's been the issue of the Constitution, with Brexit and independence both arousing strong emotions.
The Conservatives had their best result in decades in Wales in the last election. This time, it's a fight for survival, trying to avoid the total wipeout they experienced here in 1997 and 2001. It may not have helped to have to suspend a candidate just a couple of weeks ago because of the betting scandal. Over the campaign, Labour's had to defend its record in power in Wales at the Senedd, in particular long NHS waiting lists and the First Minister Vaughan Gething losing a vote of no confidence here. But the poll suggests they're still on course to win the lion's share of seats. Boundary changes mean there are fewer of those up for grabs, down from 40 to 32 seats this time. For small parties like Plaid Cymru, that limits their ambitions to 2, 3, maybe 4 seats. Arguably for them and Reform, this campaign has been more about wooing voters ahead of the next Senedd elections in 2026.
The possibility of a future referendum on Irish unity, the outworkings of Brexit, how Northern Ireland is funded and the instability of devolved government have all featured heavily. And it's already school holiday time here, which may affect voter turnout. Now, there are 18 seats up for grabs. Last time, the Democratic Unionist Party took 8. Sinn Féin followed closely behind with 7. The Social Democratic and Labour Party took 2, and the Alliance Party had 1. Massive changes are not expected, but if the DUP loses any ground, it could lead to Sinn Féin, who want a united Ireland, taking the lead. They're already the biggest party at Assembly and Council level, and they will want to make it a hat-trick at Westminster. If they manage it, it will lead to inevitable debate about the constitutional future of this place. It may all come down to 1 or 2 seats, but in Northern Ireland, even small changes can shape the big picture.
Well, once all votes have been cast, the results will come through overnight tomorrow into the early hours of Friday. Our Deputy Political Editor, Vicky Young, is with me to talk us through some of the key things to look out for. Vicky.
Thank you very much, Jane. Well, this is the electoral map made up of 650 constituencies. Boundaries have altered since the last election to reflect population changes. A party needs 326 seats to win a majority in the House of Commons. Now, here's a reminder of the party leaders who fought the 2019 election. They've all been replaced, apart from Nigel Farage, who returned at the start of this campaign. And this was the result of the last election. Boris Johnson, promising to get Brexit done, won with an 80-seat majority, and Jeremy Corbyn led Labour to its worst result since 1935. The Tories made significant gains in the so-called Red Wall. These were places that in many cases had voted Labour for generations. Across a swathe of England, from Northumberland to Lancashire, through the Black Country and Lincolnshire, Labour strongholds turned blue. These are the seats that Keir Starmer is hoping to recapture. Now, in the south of England, there's a different battle. Rishi Sunak is trying to fend off the Liberal Democrats in what they've dubbed the Blue Wall, places where the Lib Dems came second to the Tories last time, a corridor stretching from southwest London through the home counties to the southwest. And what about the battle in Scotland? The SNP won 48 of the 59 seats up for grabs, making them Westminster's third largest party. Labour were reduced to just one seat, but are confident that they can benefit from recent SNP scandals. In Northern Ireland, 18 seats are up for grabs. The Democratic Unionist Party won the most in the last general election, but other parties are hoping to change that this time. Sinn Féin is currently the largest party at Stormont and aims to repeat that success tomorrow, although their MPs don't take up their seats in the House of Commons. In Wales, Labour lost ground to the Tories last time, but now it's Conservatives fearing losses. Meanwhile, Plaid Cymru are hoping to hold on or gain in the west and north of Wales. Now, for smaller parties like the Greens and Reform UK, it can be difficult to translate their votes into seats, but both will be hoping to have a voice in the Commons after the election. If you still have questions ahead of tomorrow's election, head to the BBC News website and app, where you'll find details of candidates in your area, guides to party manifestos, interviews with party leaders and links to the recent debates across the BBC. Jane.
All right, thanks, Vicky. And let's just get some thoughts from Chris at Westminster. It is nearly polling day. Chris, how do you sum up where we are tonight?
Jane, this will be a landmark election. Why do I say that? Well, no party in modern times has won 5 elections in a row. That is the brutal truth that confronts Rishi Sunak tonight. And there's a brutal truth too for Keir Starmer and Labour. Labour are world beaters at losing elections. It is 19 years since they last won a general election. So something has to give. Now, the Conservatives expect to lose. Labour expect to win. One final big thought as well tonight ahead of tomorrow. Park for a moment the cynicism, the indifference, the frustration, the anger you might have, and picture in your mind a map of the world and the huge swathes of the globe where the right to choose who governs you simply doesn't exist. Tomorrow, just like in 2019 and other elections before then, via lots of individual decisions in polling stations, that decision will be taken. It's imperfect as democracy, but it can be magical. And it's over to you now to decide.
Chris, thanks so much for now. Chris Mason. Well, we turn now to the US election because the New York Times is reporting tonight that Joe Biden has told one of his allies that he's weighing up whether to continue in the race for the presidency. Mr. Biden has faced criticism of his performance in that TV debate with Donald Trump last week. Let's find out more from our North America editor, Sarah Smith. So what are you hearing tonight, Sarah?
Well, the White House are pushing back against that story, saying that the idea that Joe Biden is worried he can't salvage his chances in this race is totally false. But that is not going to quell the growing fears that there are inside the Democratic Party. There are other stories appearing, again from anonymous sources, saying that in recent meetings they've seen Joe Biden lose his train of thought and struggle to finish a sentence. Only one Democratic lawmaker has so far gone public saying that Biden should step down, but dozens more are ready to do so if in the next few days he can't convince voters that he is up to the job. Because polling suggests nearly 3/4 of people now think that he is not fit to be president. And while you've got the Biden campaign insisting that he's definitely going to carry on, the party's not been very impressed with his attempts to try and resolve the situation. He did appear on live television and give a brief statement on Monday night, and he is meeting all the Democratic governors today to try and reassure them, but many of them think that should have happened a lot earlier, and it's the same story with senior lawmakers on the Hill. He needs to recover this situation quickly. He is giving an interview to ABC television, which will air in full on Sunday, and that will be watched very closely by his party and by the electorate.
All right, Sarah, thanks for now. Sarah Smith there. It is 19 minutes past 6, our top story tonight. Before tomorrow's general election, the leaders of all the main parties have been travelling the country today, making their final appeal for votes. Still to come here tonight.
Here at Wimbledon, I have news of Emma Raducanu in the singles and intriguingly the mixed doubles. An exceptional day too for Britain's Sonnet Cartel. That's all coming up.
Coming up on BBC London, 15 years on, why questions remain over the fire at Lakanal House that killed 6 people. And the Healing Garden relocated from Chelsea Flower Show, now helping London trauma victims.
Well, over the last 6 weeks, we've been hearing from BBC reporters about how the election campaign has been playing out across the UK, from Shetland to Newquay, from Dungannon to the Norfolk coast. So, for the last time in this election, let's find out the mood in 2 areas. Tristan Pascoe is on Portland in Dorset. And first, let's go to the West Midlands and Emma Thomas, who is in Walsall. Emma.
Well, Walsall and Bloxwich is a brand new constituency in both name and shape. It's made up of roughly half of the former seat of Walsall North, which going into the election had a Conservative MP, and roughly half of Walsall South, which had a Labour MP. In fact, Walsall South has elected Labour MPs since the 1970s, whereas Walsall North was a fairly recent Conservative gain in 2017. This all points to it being a key Labour target. However, the recent results in May's local elections do offer some challenge to that. The Conservatives somewhat bucked the trend by keeping control of the Borough Council, and in the West Midlands mayoral elections, whilst it was the Labour candidate that won overall across the region, here in Walsall Borough it was the Conservative who got the most votes, so that may well give the Conservatives some confidence. It's also worth mentioning that Reform's mayoral candidate is now Reform's parliamentary candidate here, and she secured the 3rd largest proportion of the votes in Walsall Borough. So if that level of support holds up, it could split the vote and have an impact on who becomes the next MP.
Emma, thank you. Let's head to Portland in Dorset and join Tristan.
Yes, good evening from Portland. Very breezy this evening. This is the Dorset South constituency, host of the sailing events at the 2012 Olympics. For some, those games very much the high watermark of the last 14 years of Conservative government. It's also the last seat in Dorset held by Labour from 2001 to 10. Now, the Liberal Democrats recently won control of Dorset Council from the Tories at the local elections, but the seat is not a target for them, whereas Labour believe they have a real chance of winning it back. As for big issues here, well, the other side of the harbour behind me is the controversial migrant accommodation barge, the Bibby Stockholm. Some asylum seekers have described living conditions as like a prison ship. One of them, Leonard Farragut, tragically took his own life on board last year. And while many want it scrapped, Shadow Home Secretary Yvette Cooper said just yesterday she would not end the use of the Bibby Stockholm here if Labour wins the election. Now, as for the possible impact of Reform UK here, well, we really are in uncharted waters. The party is standing in 6 of the 8 constituencies in Dorset, including here. But if, as many expect, they fracture the Tory vote, there'll be Conservatives extremely anxious about seeing what would have once been considered fairly comfortable, safe majorities disappearing almost overnight.
Tristan and Emma, thank you very much. And now to other news again tonight. A judge has ruled that there is sufficient evidence for the former leader of the Democratic Unionist Party, Sir Geoffrey Donaldson, to face trial on historical sexual offence charges. He appeared in court in Newry in County Down this morning. Sir Geoffrey now faces 18 charges involving 2 alleged victims, including rape, gross indecency and indecent assault. He appeared with his wife, who's also been charged. She faces 5 charges of aiding and abetting in connection with the alleged offences. Sir Geoffrey has said he would be strenuously contesting the charges. The daughter and son-in-law of Captain Sir Tom Moore have been banned from being charity trustees or senior managers. The regulator, the Charity Commission, took the decision after investigating the foundation they'd set up in honour of Sir Tom, who raised nearly £39 million for the NHS by walking laps of his garden during the COVID pandemic. Well, let's find out more from our correspondent, Chichi Zundu. What's been going on here? What is the Charity Commission saying, Chichi?
Well, as you said, the foundation was set up in Captain Sir Tom's name after he walked 100 laps of his garden back in 2020 during lockdown. Now, we must stress that that £39 million that he raised was managed by the NHS Charities Together and was not under investigation. He sadly passed away at the age of 100 in 2021. Then in 2022, the Charity Commission opened an inquiry into the foundation over worries about its management and its independence from Sir Tom's family. Last year, the foundation said it was going to stop asking people to donate because it wanted to ensure it cooperated fully with the ongoing inquiry with the Charity Commission. The Charity Commission today confirmed that it issued the disqualification order back in May, and that kicked in at the end of June. So it's disqualified Hannah Ingram Moore and her husband Colin Ingram for 8 to 10 years respectively, because the legal test was met for misconduct and or mismanagement. The individuals are not fit to be trustees or hold senior management functions, and disqualification is in the public interest. Now, we must stress also that the Commission's inquiry is still ongoing. In a statement, the Ingram Moore family said it fundamentally disagreed with the conclusions reached by the Commission. Despite the option to appeal, the family said they'd made the extremely difficult decision not to do so, saying the profound emotional upheaval and financial burden made such a course of action untenable. They added that they fully cooperated with the Commission at all times and had never accessed or made any payments from the charity's bank account, while independent trustees had maintained full control over the charity's finances since its inception.
All right, thank you, Chichi Izundu. The British cyclist Mark Cavendish has broken the record for stage wins at the Tour de France. The sprint specialist won stage 5 this afternoon, breaking the legendary Eddie Merckx's record. Cavendish now has 35 stage wins. Contesting what's expected to be his final tour, the 39-year-old burst clear in a dramatic finish. And it's been announced that Andy Murray will play in the mixed doubles at Wimbledon alongside Emma Raducanu. The news came the day after he pulled out of the singles. Joe Wilson has been watching the day's action.
Rain delays inspire the best of Wimbledon. Technique, strength, courage. But for hours on the outside courts, not much tennis. In this gloom broke the uplifting news that Andy Murray would be partnering Emma Raducanu. He called her, she said yes, the dream mixed doubles.
We don't get the opportunity to do it loads, so I think the fans always really enjoy it when it's two players that they know and want to get behind, and yeah, should be a brilliant atmosphere in the matches we play.
Notice he says matches plural. In his final Wimbledon, Murray still plays to win. Sonny Cartal from Brighton, wearing the cap here, has completed 2 victories, and they rival any in the championships this year. In the first round she beat a seed. This time it was world number 45 Clara Burrell. Sonny Cartal is ranked 298 in the world. She's overcome injury and illness.
She's done it!
And next she will play Coco Gauff. Determination deserves rewards. Now, Emma Raducanu had singles matters to attend to. Her second round opponent, Elise Mertens, is in fact a doubles specialist.
Got it.
She couldn't reach that. Raducanu's shot-making, her athleticism, all looking strong as she took the first set 6-1. A reminder, her best tennis is as good as anyone's. Yeah, Raducanu was so good, she just wrapped up the second set 6-2. If I turn my attention to court 1 right now, Raducanu's just talking to the crowd, about to sign some autographs. Jane, that was a seriously impressive win in just 1 hour 15 minutes against the top-ranked doubles player in the world. If we quickly turn our attention to tomorrow's action in terms of British interest, well, it will be the Murray brothers and courts full of others.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. Joe Wilson there at Wimbledon. Let's take a look now at the weather prospects. Louise Lee is here. Hello.
Hi there, Jane. Quick update on Hurricane Beryl. Still remains a dangerous Category 4 storm, expected to push and make landfall across Jamaica almost at any moment now. And then it'll continue to drive its way westwards across the Cayman Islands and eventually making it over towards the Yucatan Peninsula and close to Cancun. So a very significant storm continues. The hurricane warnings have been issued here. It kind of puts our weather story in context. We're all moaning about where has summer gone, but Yes, it's been pretty dull and dismal today, but it's not significantly dangerous. Now, across the UK, it's all to do with the jet stream, which is sitting right across us at the moment. The jet stream responsible for driving in areas of low pressure. So no surprise to see there's one centred just to the north of Scotland. Breezy conditions here tomorrow, and another frontal system going to bring some rain to the south on Friday. So tomorrow, a bit of a north-south divide. Sunny spells, scattered showers. Some of these showers merging together for longer spells of rain. Pretty windy here as well for the time of year. But further south, for central and southern parts of England and Wales, it'll be drier, it'll be sunnier. And yes, it will still be breezy, but we might see temperatures peaking at 20 degrees. That should feel pleasant enough because obviously the sunshine is pretty strong at this time of year. Then into Friday, though, all change. We see that weather front. That's going to bring outbreaks of showery nuisance rain across central and southern England. So if we draw a line really from the M4 corridor south, cloudy, few scattered showers to the northwest, some of those quite heavy in Northern Ireland, sandwiched in between the two, drier and a brighter story. But those temperatures still subdued, I'm afraid, for early July. Will it change into the weekend? Unlikely. England and Wales seeing the best of the weather on Saturday, but it still remains changeable. Jane.
All right, Louise, thank you. In a moment, it's the news where you are. But first, the election campaign has had many memorable moments and thrown up the odd surprise. Let's leave you now with a look back at the last few weeks. Bye for now.
We will have a general election on the 4th of July.
Now, it will feel like a long campaign, I'm sure of that.
Look, I'm going to focus on the voters between now and the 4th of July. This is a really critical moment.
I returned home before the International Leaders event. On reflection, that was a mistake, and I apologise.
They just want me excluded from Parliament.
No decision has been taken to bar Diane Abbott.
I have decided. I've changed my mind. I am going to stand in this election.
7 political parties, 7 leading figures.
Scottish National Party support is steadily going up.
Oh gosh, we're going to keep going, right, okay. So that's interesting. I will fight for you. I will make sure that your voice is heard.
If you want change, you have to vote for it.